Glad to see so many good folks here in our last day. I know it's like this is the day a lot of folks tend to need to leave a little bit early, but I'm glad we had a nice crew here for our last sessions of the conference. So I'm Mike Farah. I'm going to be your session chair today. I'm from Booz Allen, former Weather Service. We got a lot of good talks, kind of a grab bag of different type of topics. We're going to start off with drought, and our first speaker is Chad Merrill from AccuWeather.
All right, thank you very much, folks. We've had some really great talks so far this morning about drought recognition patterns, especially in the West and also in parts of the plains. So I'm going to walk you through the drought that began last summer in West Virginia, some pattern recognition for it, and some takeaways from the study. So this is a little video for you. The drought peaked at its worst September 24th, the first time since the drought monitor came into existence that there was a level 4 drought in West Virginia. And this is some of the footage. This is in the eastern panhandle of West Virginia. This was when I was at WOAY. I was the chief meteorologist there before I transitioned to AccuWeather earlier this year. The rivers were very low, and this footage right here was in late August. The trees were turning color, the leaves were turning color, and some of the leaves were starting to drop off. And this spot right here was in the extreme drought. There was high fire danger across a good portion of the state as well, and the grass was just completely charred. NOAA had highlighted this area to the west in Ohio and to the east along the I-81 corridor to I-95 as a flash drought potential, but they did not highlight parts of West Virginia. So June 15th through the 22nd, 2024, an upper-level ridge had developed across the east. You can see the progression of that ridge pattern from the 18th through the 22nd of June. It actually established the maximum height value at the OKX, which is the Long Island. It established the maximum height value for 5,990 meters. When you get a ridge that's that strong, you typically have significant heat, and there was significant heat, and things dried out very quickly. So if you look on the SPC page under their climatology, you will see that indeed that high pressure was very strong. All right, so the EDDI, this is one great indicator of drought, the Evaporative Demand Drought Index. And look at western parts of Pennsylvania and West Virginia as we go from the 15th through the 22nd, the EDDI was significantly high. That's the thirst of the atmosphere. That's how much water it can take in, and that's how much developed. The EDDI went wet for the first time after Helene. So we got significant amounts of rainfall from Helene, about 3 to 4 inches of rain across West Virginia. One thing that I noticed with the 500 millibar anomaly patterns, looking at droughts in the past and using the drought monitor data for this, is that there tended to be, with these droughts in West Virginia, a ridge pattern that develops across parts of the Hudson Bay. So these are the 500 millibar anomalies. And when you look at the top 3 costliest West Virginia droughts, which you can get from the NCDC storm event database, and the drought from last year still doesn't have a value assigned to it in terms of the amount of damage done. So I looked at 3 previous costliest droughts. What we see here is a ridge pattern from the Bermuda High all the way up into the Hudson Bay that connects to Greenland. When you get that very strong Bermuda High develop across the east, you create heat, you create significant subsidence. So the top 3 costliest droughts in the eastern panhandle started in September 98 and went through August of 99, $7 million in damage. In the Greenbrier Valley, many of you are familiar with the Greenbrier Golf Course in Lewisburg, that started in the summer. And then there was one in the eastern panhandle, July 97, that was $2.1 million. That's how much it cost overall. So this past summer, the pattern had flipped. So last summer, significant drought. This summer, up until recently, there's been a low pressure across the Hudson Bay, and that has promoted a wet pattern. So one thing I looked at was the teleconnection patterns, and a positive phase of the Pacific North America pattern tended to favor drought development across the mid-Atlantic and parts of West Virginia, and a negative phase of the PNA tended to develop wetness. So these are the PNA and NAO, North Atlantic Oscillation trends, with the top 6 West Virginia droughts, looking at the U.S. Drought Monitor. And for most of these, the PNA was in a positive phase, and then when the drought ended is when the PNA went to negative, and there was some variability, at least with the NAO pattern. So a little bit more variability with the NAO, but the PNA tended to be positive with your dry periods and negative with your wet periods. If we look at this year specifically, this summer, the June PNA was -1, and the precipitation was above average across West Virginia. PNA slightly neutral in July, mostly above average precipitation in the form of rain, of course. And then August, just last month, the PNA was mostly positive and there were significant rainfall departures. So a drought is developing in West Virginia. The latest drought monitor as of last week was a moderate drought in parts of the state. Also, I looked at a potential connection to the drought. That is the Pacific Meridional Mode. And with the top 3 costliest droughts, the PMM was either strongly significant or strongly negative, strongly positive or negative. And an area that you monitor for the PMM is the ocean temperatures from the Baja California extending back through Hawaii. So on the left-hand side is an example of way cooler than average waters, which is a negative phase of the PMM. On the right image is a significant positive phase of the PMM. So those are some of the pattern recognition signals that could signal the onset of drought. Also, looking at the ENSO trends, there tends to be a cool neutral to strong La Nina that leads to drought development across West Virginia. So ENSO can also play a factor. And then I also looked at the snowfall anomalies prior to the onset of the drought. And you can see there's a lot of yellow and red on this map. That means that when you have a winter with below average snowfall, it can lead to the development of drought the following spring and or summer. That snowfall helps significantly compared to overall precipitation in terms of rain, because when snow melts, that moisture is able to seep down into the ground. So have you seen a loss of crop and revenue because of the drought?
The sweet corn, not so much because we've kept it watered. The field corn's suffering pretty good.
We had a drought in '88, was dry, but it didn't have the heat. This heat, when you have those 100-degree days, it just sucks the moisture out of the ground. Even if you get a little precipitation, it's sucked up the next day. When you get those days in the 90s, and you get constant days of that, 4 or 5, even 2 weeks of the 90s, then those plants kind of go dormant. So even when they do have rain, they're not in a growing process. So there's little effect to it as far as the growth and the harvest for the cattle.
So those were 2 farmers that I had interviewed during the drought last year. And yes, rain came from Helene, but a lot of that was runoff, and it was way too late for the farmers. So another drought assessment tool, folks, is the CMOR. There's the QR code for it, and you can get a lot of great data. When folks submit drought reports, it comes onto this really nice GIS platform, and the Drought Monitor uses it in their final assessment product. So with the drought assessment, positive PNA plays more of a role than a positive NAO in drought, specifically in West Virginia. And when you get that ridge that extends from the east all the way into the Hudson Bay and into Greenland, that also favors significant heat and significant substance, and also below average snowfall leading into it, extremes in the PMM, and using that EDDI, the Evaporative Drought Demand Index, and that drought development tool, and you can get all kinds of information that people submit on their summaries. You can get pictures of what's going on. And folks, it took until June 3rd of this year for moderate drought to completely exit the state of West Virginia. So it took all the snow last winter and all the rain in the spring to help replenish the groundwater. So I'm going to thank you very much, and if there are any questions, I would be happy to field them. But there is one thing I did want to mention. I was speaking with a student yesterday about this particular project, and one of the things that he mentioned was the evapotranspiration tool that he is developing at his university. And if a tool like that is developed, it could also signify a precursor to the onset of lots of evaporation from the soil from farms. So if we have a tool like evapotranspiration tool, that could be used as a precursor even before the evaporative drought demand index to give us an idea of the onset of drought. And drought is a significant thing, of course. It causes significant problems with farmers, loss of revenue. So it's definitely something that probably, hopefully, will be more studies in the future about.
All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate it, Chad. I think we need to move on. If you got any questions, you can put those in the app or reach out to Chad separately. We're going to